Hello, welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, episode number 50. Woo! A podcast where we discuss the books, genre, industry, and our geeky lives. I'm your host, Elle Klaus.
I'm A.R.D. Clark.
And I'm Paulina Woods.
And today, for our 50th episode, we have Simone Anderson. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about myself. I have been writing for as long as I can remember. I've been interested in fantasy, sci-fi for about that long. Romance came a little bit later. Let's see, I graduated in 2009 from Western Michigan University. When I moved down here to go to school, we stayed because I have a kid who just graduated from high school and is now in college. But I grew up actually in Grand Rapids in the Granville, Wyoming area.
Okay. So you said you started young, going all the way through your education. Did you, pursue an English degree or creative writing degree?
I did not pursue an English degree. I took a lot of English classes. I took a lot of history and mythology classes, which kind of goes with world building for me at least, along with some sociology. I started pursuing when I moved back to West Michigan. I moved back to West Michigan in 2000, so 2001 is when I started pursuing publication, writing for publication seriously.
Sorry. I warned you, my children are going to make an appearance. It's not a podcast without one of them. Yeah, I was wondering if like many people are like, oh, I want to be a writer, and then, parents or whatever, like, no, get a real job, and then we always end up back at the same spot anyway.
Yes, actually. It was get a real job. I went into the Air Force. I was there for 6 years. And then when I got married, and then I got out, and then when we moved back to West Michigan after I got divorced, that's when I started pursuing writing as a for publication, but it was still kind of a hobby. When I went to school, it was actually for healthcare. I was a pre-med major, and then my kid became a junior high, and I was like, oh, this isn't gonna work. So I have a Bachelor of Science degree, but my interest is actually history, mythology, and kind of building worlds from there. I like to use it as a jumping point for anything I create.
So your sci-fi is more, it's not hard sci-fi, but you build it based off of the scientific evidence that we have currently and build your world from there.
Sometimes it's more space opera and kind of a science, there's the theory that you can't, some forms of travel can't be done with science and physics as we know it, but it kind of works better in my world anyways when they go a little bit faster. But yeah, I kind of had a tendency to mix hard science with fantasy to see what I get, and then when I create when I'm writing straight fantasy or fantasy romance, it's definitely more fantasy based.
Okay, so I went to your blog, as you know, we always stalk the authors that we're having on our podcast, and I noticed that you were mentioning that you're going to be doing NaNoWriMo. So NaNoWriMo is kind of my thing.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things do you do to prep for NaNoWriMo?
I'm a pantser, so I write by the seat of my pants. I don't do a whole lot of plotting. I do some research. So like this year, I was kind of still kind of figuring out what I'm gonna do. But I'll start with, Pinterest is like the black hole of time, but it's great for storyboarding, and kind of getting ideas of what I want to do, or there'll be an image come through of like a ruined English castle or Irish castle, or an old medieval city or town, and those images will go, and some of the even some images from cities in the desert, I will stick on a storyboard or a board in Pinterest and kind of get my ideas that way. And then as I'm writing, I may put in, comments that say, research this kind of sailing vessel, research this, figure out your magic laws. It's helpful if I have them figured out ahead of time, but if I don't, then I just try to make notes of whatever rules I've set in place and then go from there. And then... Yeah.
So, are the boards public or private?
Half and half, actually. A lot of them are public. Some of them are private, mostly because I'm not quite sure who the main characters are going to be. And if it's male, female, I'll actually keep those private. But some of the ones that I might be working on may still be private, or I may throw them up public. It really, really depends. So it's a half and half.
Okay, well, Amy's kind of our Pinterest enthusiast here. I mean, I have a Pinterest, but Amy she Pinterest for the podcast, so I'm going to pass it over to Amy, who's our pseudo Pinterest goddess.
I do Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I have currently like 5,000 Pinterest followers because I just pin the crap out of stuff all the time. But my boards have a lot of fashion, especially historical fashion, because I write a lot of punk genres, which include like deco punk and steampunk, so I get a lot of Victorian and a lot of 40s and 50s fashion. So let's talk about being a pantser, because I'm a pantser and I love it, and everyone always tries to make me change and I just can't do it. But so when you sit down to write a book, what do you have? Do you have a general idea? Do you have a theme that you want to write to? Do you have characters that you want to write to? Or do you have a world that you want to write to?
It depends on the individual project. Usually I have the characters, or I may have a character and the beginning scene. I only write happily ever after, so I know it's going to end with my characters being together. I know that part. More than that, I don't usually know. Sometimes I know kind of what the feel of the world I want to do, if it's going to be a little bit more, if the setting's going to be more desert, or if it's going to be more the traditional medieval, or if I'm going to go with more Scandinavian influences. Sometimes I know that, sometimes I don't know that until I start getting in. And I may have an idea in the beginning, but characters are atheists, and they don't care what you want to do. They're going to do what they want to do and take your story in any number of directions. So that's, sometimes I know the characters, sometimes I have just a general idea.
Is there anything that you have to have when you write? Because for me, it's music, and I have to have that on in the background, or Pinterest is a suckhole of time, but so is YouTube, just a fair warning. So I'll just let you know how many hours I've wasted on YouTube. Many. I probably could have written 4 books in the time that I've spent on YouTube. But is there anything that you have to have inspiration-wise, food-wise, drink-wise, when you sit down to write?
I used to need, when I first started writing seriously, I needed barbecued Pringles, but now not so much. I like little crunchy snacks and a drink, but more than that, I need on the project itself, I need to know the title. I have to know a title, but inspiration music, sometimes I can do random music, just a channel from Pandora. Sometimes I'll build a list either from the CDs I have, a playlist from the CDs I have, or I build a list in YouTube, and I can have that on the background, even because I don't have to watch the videos, although sometimes watching some of the videos gives you some ideas also.
Yes, it does.
So I have to have music. I write better when I'm not around my kid and in all the distractions of home. So I may go to a coffee shop, I may go to Barnes & Noble or something and write, but I like to have music. Definitely need the music when I'm writing.
And so talk to us a little bit about the books that you write. Do you have a common theme? Do you have a common purpose? I know you said you always write a happily ever after. Is there anything else that when we pick up your book, we can just know that it's going to be in there?
And not that I'm aware of. What I try, my goal when I write is to entertain. I write for the purpose of entertaining, because life is hard. Life is hard enough. So I generally try to write within a purpose of entertaining. If I can, if people are healed or strengthened by that or something I write, then that makes me feel really good. Those are the kinds of things I try to do. As for a common theme, no, I have a tendency to jump all over. I do a lot of military, I do some sci-fi. I do some parent-child relations seem to have come into the last few that I've written. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not sure I want to delve too close into that, but kind of and it also kind of going against what's expected. That one has come up a couple of times too. I've noticed, a son not being what his father expects or not being what his parents expect. So that's sort of actually one of the ones I started at work a couple months ago. That theme has actually come up. It's more of trying to figure out how you fit against, in the end, he's really breaking away from his society and what his society expects.
If there was, this will just be my last question, by the way, before I pass off to Paulina, but if there's one author that you could say, inspired you or is your favorite go-to author, who is that?
That's really hard. I don't have just one. I actually have several. I mean, I enjoy the classics, that are not romance at all. Frank Herbert and Tolkien. But I do enjoy other authors like Carolyn and Rick Reed. I'm trying to think, I have a variety of interests that I read, so it's hard to pin down who go-to authors are, and a lot of classics.
Hello, I guess my turn. Yay. So my first question is why do you write Mel or Mel?
I started out writing the traditional male-female, but the characters that have come to me are male-male. I myself am bisexual. I have a non-binary child, who is also pansexual. So it's just one of those things that I kind of grew into. And they are the stories that I write and want to write at this point in time, and explore those, relationships.
Okay, I was wondering because in one of my books, I was trying to force my character to go with a girl, and ended up he's like looking at me like, "Fuck you, bitch." So a lot of my stories actually are starting to turn more, to the male. Do you have any plans to do any females?
I do have some ideas running around. If I do write male-female, it will be under a different name, just because under a different pen name, just because my books are all male-male right now, and that's what readers would expect. They're always
Okay,
going to expect that.
I meant to say female, female. Sorry.
Um, that I don't have the ideas for any at this point, but I'm not saying I wouldn't. Again, it would probably still be under a different name for the same reason, because my characters are at this point, everything I write is male, male.
Okay.
But I think if I were to do female, female, or even male, female, it would definitely be under a different name.
And as I checked out your website, you said almost everything is like military, fire, police. Do you have a background in that? Because I'm a military brat, so I'm just interested.
Yep. I spent 6 years in the Air Force, active duty, and I fixed F-15s. So I fixed the Strike Eagle jet. So I do have some background in that. My brother's a Marine. My uncle and my father were both in the military. I come from a strong military background. So it is something that has always been part of my life. So
It's actually pretty cool. I have a strong military background, and they haven't slipped into my writing yet, so I guess I should look forward to that.
definitely, it's characters tell you what they want, who they are, and where they came from.
Yeah, I know. I wish they would just shut up and let me do what I want. Be more fun.
Yeah, but sometimes they have better ideas. Sometimes not, but sometimes.
They do. Trust me. Like, I know. But sometimes you sit down and you're like, this is going to be the best book, and I already know how it's going to, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, the one I'm working on right now, it's called Marked, and it is fantasy. And yeah, I was starting it to go one way. It's like, I know where it's going to go. Yeah, no. It's not going to go there.
Which do you prefer to write? Because fantasy and it looks like your other ones are contemporary, correct?
They are. Yep.
Which one pulls you more?
I actually like all of them. I love different aspects of it. I love the world building in fantasy and sci-fi that I can do, and exploring different ideas. And in the sci-fi, I have a tendency to kind of explore some of the political issues that, or some aspects of political issues that we face. And I have a chance to delve in them without pinpointing who's right, and just kind of looking at it from a broader topic sometimes. Fantasy, like I said, gives me the option of creating complete cultures and settings, and I absolutely enjoy world building. It's one of my favorite aspects of writing.
Have you ever done a I guess a run at maybe a paranormal, or are you going to stick with fantasy and contemporary?
I have in the past I've tried paranormal, and I've got a project, actually a trilogy, that I've kind of percolating in the back of my mind right now, that will be paranormal. So I'm looking at that. I just haven't gotten to that, and it's still kind of, like I said, percolating. So I'm not sure of all of the details, because it's a little bit more complex than I have been writing.
How long have you been writing again? I know it's somewhere. I just forgot.
I started writing actually when I was in second grade.
I mean, how long have you been published? I'm sorry.
I was published, was it 2007, 2009?
Okay, are you an indie or are you a traditional?
I am published with Pride Publishing and MLR Press and Resplendence Publishing. So 3 different houses. They're all e-houses, but not self-published.
Okay. I know Pride Publishing because I believe that Amber Kell is with them, and I read a lot of her books.
She is, yes.
Yeah,
I love her books. I do.
Right? Oh my God.
Yep. She
I
does
devour
some,
them and I email her.
yes, she's got some amazing world building.
I'm like, will you finish? And she's and every 6 months I'll email and like, I'm waiting. So I mean, I like how they actually have a diversity. How do you are you thinking of putting more diverse characters into your books?
Diverse how?
As in, because we were talking about it earlier, a lot of I guess people are talking about the fact that there's not a lot of non-light colored people. That's the best way I can put it without being mean. You know, like there's a low number of Asians and of anything that's not white people.
Right. Okay. If I
I said light.
if I
Laugh.
I am I'm hard of hearing, so I may have heard something than you were actually saying. I am hard of hearing. But I kind of understand where you're going with that. If I can do it in such a way that would not be stereotypical and not be offensive, then I have no problems bringing in other characters and having that more diversity. But it's a matter of making sure, for me, that I do it in a respectful manner that's not going to be offensive and not perpetuate any stereotypes.
True. All my books have at least. I think I have. Oh my god. All my books have mixed cultures. Only because I like the contrast of skin on skin.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I know that sounds weird. My boyfriend's white, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Because I just put my hand on him. I'm like, "I love the contrast." He's like, "You're weird." I'm like, "I'm not dating for your personality, honey." Okay, Elle, I'm done.
Okay. Well, Simone, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
You can find me in several places. My website is www.simoneanderson.com. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, and Google Plus, actually.
Okay. And I forgot to. This is what I was forgetting before we started the podcast, folks. This is what you're supposed to remind me of. We normally do an ebook giveaway for anybody that leaves a comment on our blog. Did you want to participate, or do you have the ability to give ebooks?
I do, and yes, I will.
Okay. So, if you would like to win a copy, did you have a specific one in mind, or can the reader just pick whichever ebook from your catalog?
You know what? They can pick. Absolutely.
Okay. So in order to qualify to win an ebook, you need to leave a comment on our blog on this podcast, episode 50. And you do that by going to focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. So leave a comment there. We'll leave it up for 30 days. So November 20. And hopefully we'll be almost done with our NaNoWriMo books by then. But thank you for joining us. If you like the podcast, please like, comment, and share. This has been episode 50, if you haven't figured it out. Good night.
Good night.